The purpose of this meetup is to build a community. I have had the privilege of starting 2 other meetups, and the benefit from it is not immediately commercial, and it's not about selling anything, and it's not about promoting anything. It is literally just getting everybody in a community, in a given city, to come together and help each other and share experiences and talk to people who have the same problems that you do.
It's really nice to be invited by Foxgate, and it's really nice to be able to speak to you guys and to learn from me as well as from the previous speaker, who I really enjoyed. My name is Keenan, as Richard said, and this entire deck could have been just called Integrity, but I thought it was going to sound like a Stephen King novel, so we're going with Why Integrity is Your Best Sales Tool. Just a bit of background on myself. I started organising events when I was 19 and kind of came into the industry from a very roundabout angle. So when I was in university, I was the chairperson of the debating society, which involved getting 2 speakers to come for free to talk to 200 students twice a week. So I pretty much cut my teeth in that scenario. And then from there went into more corporate roles because I needed money, essentially. And I went from being a telemarketer to then a salesperson at HubSpot, as Richard mentioned, and now I'm in charge of the marketing at Tito. So I just kind of want to talk to you about like how that process happened and how events inform your knowledge of sales and marketing, and just some sales and marketing experience that I have that's very relevant and useful in terms of events. Just briefly about Tito, as Richard mentioned again, we're a ticket software platform. We're based in Dublin. We have a few remote workers, and we mostly work with the tech industry, and making us, I think, the 3rd tech startup in the room of about 14, 15 people. But our clients are there as well. We work with the Dublin Tech Summit, Twilio, SaaS Talk, and a couple other kind of tech conferences globally. In terms of an agenda, I don't want to just specifically talk about sales. I also want to talk about like why integrity is important in the first place. Why it's important in kind of all expanses of the business, such as marketing and product, all of which eventually feed back into events as well. So you might be like, why is an entire presentation for event professionals about integrity? Essentially, we sat down in our event ticketing company and we were like, what do we want Tito to be? What do we want Eventprofs to get out of us? What do we want to be able to serve the community? And we came up with the idea of delight, but it was so wishy-washy that we couldn't figure out kind of how to bring it back to a base level of being able to make something experiential out of it, or something that was like tangible. So we axed that idea and figured out that integrity is the way that you get to delight. So by doing things in a conscientious way, by doing things in a way that you are like thinking about the impact of them, in a way that you want to be responsible for yourself, in a way that you want to present yourself to the event professionals that you work with to help them make delightful experiences, you need to do it with integrity. A lot of people think of integrity as something that's very, again, wishy-washy or very conceptual, but we built it into our approach from the start. So this is an extract from our About page, and essentially what it goes through is how we don't want to build the company in an exponential way. We want everything to be organic, we want it to be holistic, we want it to be from a place of treating not only just our colleagues well, but all of our customers well, to the marketing that we do, which I'll get to in a little bit. And we don't want to just focus on numbers all the time. And a lot of my experience previous to working at Tito has been very much so, you have a sales target or you're fired or you're back on probation. You're in telemarketing, you don't hit 300 calls a day, you're on pips. Like it was always that way focused. But this approach of being able to do things slow and steady has really hit home with a lot of our customers. Specifically, like a lot of you work in the Dublin event space anyway, but there's a lot of respect for companies that build themselves up from the ground, because a lot of event professionals are very grassroots driven as well. They know what it means to work really hard and to achieve things the way you want them done and to do them really well. So we've seen that as just a great overall approach as well. But more specifically in marketing, which is obviously my realm, as I mentioned, like as well as in sales, in marketing you see a lot of kind of like underhanded tactics a lot of the time. You see even when you're kind of in the inbound marketing space, a lot of people are just producing content that's not really got any content to it. It's more like these like vacuous lists of things to try and improve your SEO, or just like really unhelpful things. So going into Tito, I was able to kind of carve out the roadmap of how we wanted the marketing to look like, and there were 3 basic principles behind that that all feed back into integrity as well, that I think are really important. I think these are also a really good way to approach a long-term marketing strategy, either for yourself as an event planner for your personal branding, or if you're doing kind of a year-on-year event, or if you're, again, in the agency space. These are all really important ways that you can communicate yourself while not saying, oh, we're delightful, or oh, we have integrity, but by actually showing that you're capable of all of those attributes. So we wanted marketing to be non-interruptive. As I mentioned, my background is in inbound marketing. We wanted to know our personas really well, which is you who are sitting in this room, which is like event professionals. We wanted to figure out how they ticked, and we wanted to make good things, which is really important because, like, I don't know how many of you kind of do the content marketing roadmap, so to speak, but the amount of people who download white papers has gone down by like 10% in the past 2 years. So building things that are actually useful and relevant to the personas we've investigated is super duper important to us. So we looked at blogging first and foremost. This is actually an interview with Richard that you can find on the Tito blog. And the reason that I wanted to go into interviewing other event professionals is that a lot of people go into blogging so that they can establish themselves as what's called a thought leader, and that they can be the like Julian Solarises of the world who have all this knowledge that you can just take for granted as you read a blog. I don't think that's as effective anymore. What I think interviews do is you get the life of experience from a single individual for a single blog post, as opposed to having to milk your own brain and experience all the time, which I think is really useful. And in terms of a strategy, there are people always willing to talk to you about this, as we'll know since like half our lives we've spent networking anyway. But yeah, I just think that was a really good approach. I'm very technically focused in marketing, so SEO was a huge factor for us that I think is really important for events. I recently wrote 3 posts about this that'll be live on the Tito blog, but there were 4 main factors of SEO that we focused on that are really useful for event professionals as well. So on-page SEO is just basic things like where to put keywords like long tail or short tail on either your ticket page or your landing page. Guest posting, there are so many publications in the event space that you can be getting backlinks from, that you can be talking to in terms of cross promotion across platforms. Social sharing immediately is really important. Voxly are very good at it. And what I found the knock-on effect of that is that Google tends to like things that are seen as automatically popular. So if you can get everything across all your channels, encourage your colleagues to share with you, encourage anybody that you've partnered with to create the content, it really astronomically affects how quickly Google will rank you, essentially. And then pillar content lastly is a new approach to SEO that I learned in the past 11 months. Essentially, what that involves is having, say, one download and writing a lot of content around it, so that you start to rank for a topic rather than for a specific blog post. So that's something that's really useful to event professionals if they want to say, if they want to have brochures or something like that they want to get out there with specific keywords, such as tech event in Dublin, for example. And all of that is done based on integrity. None of that is shovey marketing. None of it is ways to shoot a load of adverts out and get yourself in front of people. And it led to 500% increase in organic traffic in 6 months. So by sticking to your guns and by actually doing things and putting in graft, it's so exponentially beneficial to the amount of traffic you get to your site. And that's something that is a bit of a longer term strategy, but again, as I mentioned, if you have a recurring event, that's going to feed you for basically as evergreen content, and it's always going to be there to help. Then in terms of us loving our customers, this comes into the persona research that we did. So when I started with Tito, I was absolutely blown away by how much our 2 co-founders knew everybody's name who were founding customers, how talked to them regularly. The fact that the main developer also did the customer support, it was absolutely insane. So to work off that, we obviously had an in to do persona research, but it was so helpful to us to be able to approach people and give them a survey that was in their own language. We know how these people talk already. It was really beneficial to be able to ask them granular questions, be able to get their pain points out, and be able to write content around that as well. And then obviously we tailored the product to this sort of information too, but it was so great. And also what we took away, and I hope all of you agree with it, is that our persona is essentially very smart and has no time. That's everything that you need to know about an event professional. And then obviously tailoring to more specific granular parts of that. The last thing that I'll say that we found really beneficial, which is obviously going to help a lot of you in the event space, is landing page optimization. There's a couple of technical aspects to this as well, of course, but one of the approaches that I took in the copy was not actually specifically going on about what the asset is, but rather talking about why the landing page looks like this, why we're using the information, being very transparent about it. And this led to a 31% conversion rate on that first month of that campaign on that landing page. So being very open with what you're going to do with data has been a big approach of ours, because we were very much so at the fore of GDPR information for conference organisers. But we've just seen that the average conversion rate on a landing page of that is like 1 to 5%. But just by upping the amount of transparency we have and the amount of integrity we put into it, we saw a huge upward trajectory, whatever. And then the last thing that we've done that I'll touch on briefly is as we work in the event space, we do a lot of offline work. So we released hard-print copies of a guide to GDPR for conference organisers, and then that cyclically came back to us posting them to some of our favourite customers. They shared it on social, downloads went up, and then there were more people requesting print guides. So that's something maybe to bear in mind with the way that you can kind of like cross-promote your assets off and online, and maybe some collateral you can bring to your events as well if you want. And that got us, I think, like 350 net new leads as well, which was really, really great. So from marketing to sales, these are the 3 things I think about prof sell. So sponsorship tickets, and they're sold for an extra half an hour of sleep. But sales can be really, really tough, especially if you're an event professional and you're doing it like either on your own or on a very small team. Sales can be terrible because people have ruined it. All of these emails are from the same girl at G2 Crowd who was trying to sell me a $10 gift card for a review, and I got, I think, like 60 of them. One example of maybe where sales and marketing need to be terrible. And then sales just has this reputation of having terrible people, some of whom I have met in my career. But one thing that I will say is the golden rule at Tito. It's a golden rule that we had at HubSpot in sales. It's a golden rule that will really, really, really benefit your event strategy, and also it touches on what the previous speaker spoke about, is negotiation and the ability to say, sorry, we're just not the right fit. And that goes both ways. Like, for example, obviously at Tito, we're a very small company, we only have a certain amount of functionality that we have, and we tailor it to the specific niche that we work in. It's the same for your event, right? So if you want to co-brand with somebody, if you want to do sponsorship, if you want somebody to give you diversity ticket funding or something like that, you need to figure out what their message is, figure out how their branding matches yours or not, and don't just go for the money. Like, it's the same in any form of sales that you ever do, and that sort of pushback is something that makes people automatically respect you that little bit more when you're in the negotiation stage. The next one's a bit weird. This is what our CRM column for phone numbers looks like. So we don't do any cold calling at all. All of our leads come from either going to trade shows, like going to conferences, networking, people who automatically sign up through direct traffic or organic search to the website, or inbound leads from content. And we never wanted to be in that interrupted space whatsoever. This was a very big passion point for my sales guy when I came in. So I was battled by my whole job in HubSpot was to cold call people. But we find that event professionals really respond to the ability to tailor their time. So we find that they won't get on the phone with you if you cold call them because they know what you're up to, they do it themselves. But it's just a much more respectful way to grow, in our opinion, like just to put it in the person's hands and let them schedule via email with you a phone call. And that doesn't mean we're like not doing work. So this is how many contacts are assigned to our single sales guy, and these are how many he's worked. I think this is over the last quarter perhaps. And that obviously doesn't reflect like that there are multiple people in multiple companies, so like while you do this with integrity you can still do really well. Which brings us to some financial secrets which are public, so not really secrets, but our business is continuing to grow despite the fact that we're doing all of these things exactly the way we want to do them. You can see that we sold over $100 million worth of tickets last year, issued 875,000 tickets, and we worked with over 7,000 events last year. So just because it's kind of a gradual increase, it is an increase. Those are numbers we're really proud of as a 9-person team, and it's something that like you can see is proof that this approach works. And just lastly, obviously all of this filters back to product, because if you don't have a good product, you don't have anything to market or sell. So the guys recently updated a few things in the product. We're going to do a bigger launch later in the summer, but they've now worked integrally into the entire ethos of the company on the about page. And I think the really key thing to hit home here is that like the software decisions that we're making are also really informed by this. Specifically, this is relevant to our industry because 47% of people say trust is the most important thing when they're about to complete a ticket purchase. So we base a lot of our sales and marketing collateral and sales enablement collateral around this statistic, because we always want to be the trustworthy one, because as you can imagine, the ticket software industry is absolutely flooded with competitors. So we think that if we're going to in any way stand out, we're going to stick by our guns and we're going to be able to do it in that way. See if this gift works. Yeah, so this is just the interface for actually selling the ticket. One thing that's really cool about Tito is that you, as an event organizer, can either have no fields, just an email, or like an entire diatribe of a form. But what we recommend is having as least intrusive an amount of details to put into for your personal ticket as possible. And we've seen a lot of case studies from our customers where that's been a really good approach for them. So one example is Learn Inbound, which some of you might be familiar with. They're like one of the biggest digital marketing conferences in Dublin. And they saw an increase of 12% to their conversion rate when they swapped to Tito forms. And we think that like this is also based on integrity, because we wouldn't have designed a form that looked like that or a ticket process that was smooth like that, and we wouldn't have put all the hours into it if we didn't think that it came from a place that was respectful to customers and to clientele and event professionals. And it seems like a lot of people like it, even without the numbers. So we get a lot of love on Twitter especially, and it's always back to the ethos. It's always back to they're really nice, or they're really good at support, or they write good stuff, but also they have a great product. So like that's top of funnel marketing doing it for us at this stage. And that is completely invaluable. Like you can maybe buy an influencer, but getting that sort of feedback, A, is encouraging to you as a professional, but B, it's just so wonderful to see that people actually acknowledge what you're doing if you're basing it on just your gut instinct a lot of the time. That's pretty much all for me, except for this picture of Jeff Coachman that I found in front of the Spanish Arch. But if you want any more information about Tito, the blog is blog.tito.io, or you can email me at any point. Always open to suggestions and feedback, and collaborations is also something I'm really into. Or if you want to check out the Tito stack itself, you can just go to tito.com/sign up, and it's free, and we don't make any money unless you make it.